Since he could remember, Nacho always carried a big red button. He had a large grey device that consisted of two buttons, a green one and a red one. Though the green one was never used or ever tampered with, he still knew exactly what this button did. However, there was a small minority that worshipped the very ground he stood on. They believed he was born to yield the grey device, that the button contained such mysterious and incredible powers that could shake the very balance of all mankind with a single motion. As strange as that may sound, it was a day like today that would confirm that they weren't far from the truth. As Nacho continued with his daily activities in search of the perfect tortilla, he gracefully retrieved his red button and gently applied pressure, firmly. It wasn't an unusual routine for Nacho. After all, he'd been doing it for as long as he could remember. He reached down from where the young gentleman once stood and carefully snapped up the small tortilla chip from the ground. Nacho held the tortilla chip high, and with great scrutiny he analysed it. Recording all of its flaws, he measured it, smelt it, caressed its rough surface. He tested its resilience and even surveyed its dynamics, all before the inevitable came. He ate it, and just like that, the tortilla was gone. He glanced at his button as he held it firmly within the palm of his hand. Nacho stopped and sighed, and looked up into the sky, wondering if he'd ever find the perfect Nacho. He glanced at his button as he held it firmly within the palm of his hand, before unwillingly, once again, returning home. Then it happened. It struck him like a bolt of lightning, hitting him so hard that tears were fleeing from his eyes. His heart pounded so ferociously he felt that at any moment it could burst out of his chest. His knees trembled, and a rabble of butterflies engulfed his insides. A red button, much bigger and bolder than his current red button. Such shape, such colour, such workmanship. Surely this could only be the work of the gods. Maybe it was fate or even destiny. Whichever way he looked at it, it was love at first sight, as he tossed his current grey device away with such ease. Nacho politely introduced himself to the bold red button before whisking the device into the air and into his hands. He gleefully ventured off into the distance with his newfound love, leaving his old red button beaten, tattered and scratched in the shadows. He hit the button again and again and again, rapidly transforming whoever stood in his way. He doubled his game. Much like his previous device, this red button too could convert people into tortilla chips. However, rather than a single tortilla chip, this one produced two. Nacho snapped them up, one after the other, gorging himself as if his life depended on it. He grabbed his new friend and gave it a firm, inseparable hug. He continued in this barbaric way over and over again, losing any human empathy he may have once felt, and his selfish actions costing the lives of many, and he neither felt guilt nor cared for his actions. As Nacho scrambled through the remains of the tortillas he'd recently stumbled upon, he sat up and briefly caught a glimpse of himself. He gazed repentantly at what he'd become before blaming his actions on his bold red button. No, he thought, he had no one but himself to blame. He grabbed the button and jetted off, running as fast as his legs could pedal him. He returned the device to where it had first appeared and spun around, hopeful of finding his old red button that he'd previously neglected. The button was no longer there. He frantically scoured the rubble, hoping that it was close by, but Nacho found nothing. A tear trickled down his cheek as he bowed his head in shame. How could he have been so foolish, so stupid, and above all so naive? It was the love of his life, and he'd thrown it away. Idiot, he thought. He miserably pulled himself up from the ground and started to stagger home. But then he heard a cry. Nacho came to a stop and gazed at the device held tightly within the girl's fingers. The young girl angrily threw the device to the ground and stomped away. Nacho bolted for his love and held it tightly, brushing off all the marks and scratches. He was overwhelmed and ecstatic to be reunited with his love. However, let it be known, their love would never be the same again. Though the device accepted Nacho once more, in his attempts to rekindle what was once lost, the red button ceased to function, and only the green button stayed within Nacho's world, replacing the lives that Nacho previously took. The end.